Wherever you are, be there totally. Your life requires your mindful presence in order to live it. Be here, now. Have you ever come across this feeling of suddenly experiencing something you see every day in a totally different light? I experienced this phenomenon recently. I was doing my daily, mundane routine of traveling to work when I suddenly noticed the day, the morning, and the sunrise, and it all felt like I was seeing everything for the first time, but not really. It sounds silly, but it was a very surreal experience. The sunlight felt so different, and it colored everything in warm tones of orange and yellows. Usually, when the morning sunlight hits the landscape, it turns the cool greens into tones of olives and yellow greens, still on the cooler side of things. But as you saw in the montage, this time the sunlight was orange and buttery yellow, and it made the landscape look golden and warm, like a filter was put on it, just like a Wes Anderson film. The satisfaction I felt of actually being able to experience that day like I did and capture it into memory was an absolute high point. In hindsight, what I realized was I was being mindful and I was in the moment. It made me realize the power of mindfulness and the impact it can have on my life and on my creativity. Imagine if I was consumed, say, on my phone and never looked up at the sky and the trees. I would have never been able to capture this beautiful moment. I would not have been in the present and let the moment pass me by and not benefited from it. The sad part is, I would not have even known that I missed it. Of course, it is really difficult to put in words what I felt that morning, and I don't think I will ever be able to explain the impact I felt with words or even art. But I am an artist, so I will try to capture the emotion through my brushstrokes and colors. Sometimes one insight can change everything. When I was researching this feeling I felt and how I could share it with everybody, I stumbled across a podcast by Melli Obrien called Mentally Stronger. In an episode called The One Distinction That Changes Everything, she explores the phenomenon that at any given moment in our lives, there are two facets of experiencing a present moment: a primary aspect and a secondary aspect. The primary experience refers to our sense perceptions, what we see, hear, smell, and taste. The secondary experience is the thought we have about our primary experience, all the meanings, stories, and viewpoints we create about the primary experience. And these secondary experiences are what trigger a response, whether it be an emotional or physiological one. And that thought process helped me break down the experience of watching the orange-yellow landscape that day. And I think being mindful is being able to have both a primary experience and a secondary experience about any moment in time. It was brilliant and fascinating. I was experiencing what Aboriginal Australians call the diri. This word describes contemplation, deep inner listening, and quiet awareness of creation that allows you to be at peace with yourself and come to a deeper understanding of the beauty of nature. Capturing light and its many facets is, I feel, one of the most important aspects of creating art. Light can make your art look real or representative, abstract or just plain vague. The sunlight that morning affected the local color of the landscape to an extreme extent because it changed the visual color of the entire scene. If you're not aware, local color is the color of an object before it gets affected by light. To capture that day's morning light in paint was an interesting experiment. And the best way to capture this on canvas, I learned with research, was to understand the mid-tone of the object you're painting. This is the value between the darkest area and the brightest area of the object. Once I established the midtones, it was very easy to manipulate the object's local colors and achieve shadow or light. And that's how I went about this piece. I blocked in the midtones before I pushed and I pulled the local color to create shadow and light in the painting. And it was truly easy to achieve it. And the evening just flew by. It's the next weekend, and unfortunately I had no time to add the final touches anytime before this. Nowadays, walking into the studio space is a whole ritual. Before anything else, I have to get the room prepped. Have a solitude moment with the plants and then begin anything else. It's proved to be an excellent practice for someone who becomes impatient quickly. I start the painting process by calming down. It's funny sometimes how one day your perception changes about a thing or an idea. I remember growing up, I used to detest eating raw tomatoes. And one day, without any preconceived notion or thought, I gave it a go and realized, hey, it's actually quite delicious. This is, of course, a simple example, but changes that come from within are always changes that have the best outcomes. You are not pressured or forced, and you give it a go because you genuinely want to. But sometimes making these kinds of decisions is alienating, and you should be prepared for it. From experience, though, I know I have never regretted any of those changes I made for myself. Just remember to focus on yourself and the changes you want to design around you. I know when you see all this great art out there in the world, you feel very insignificant about your own art. But remember to be in the present and appreciate your growth and contribution towards creativity. So be present, be mindful, and expect change, but don't accept it because you were told to. When you let mindfulness take over your daily being, you create magic in your mind. Keep creating.